This young man is named Tanaka. He is an incredibly lazy person. Tanaka is so lazy that every day, his friend has to carry him to class. But Tanaka's class is already used to this. When Tanaka wakes up, he realizes he's already in class. At this moment, Uda tells Tanaka to take out his books. But Tanaka's hands are numb, because he often sleeps in a chin-supporting posture. Although he frequently falls or twists his wrist, he feels this posture helps him relax. During self-study period, Tanaka plans to lie down and sleep. But the girls behind him are blocking all the wind from the window. Uda thinks Tanaka can sleep anywhere. Luckily, the two girls leave. Tanaka feels the wind blowing in. So, he immediately falls asleep. Unexpectedly, he falls over. When it's time for PE class, Tanaka is very excited. It turns out he's trying to get some exercise, so he can be lazy comfortably later. While everyone was warming up, but Tanaka could only move a little. At this point, they were dividing into groups to practice badminton, while Uda hit the shuttlecock very precisely. When it was Tanaka's turn, he immediately threw the racket, leaving everyone helpless. So, they let Tanaka sit and rest. At this moment, Tanaka felt it was great to always be on the same team as Uda, because Uda always carried his share of the burden. When their practice was over, they found Tanaka sleeping soundly. At this time, Tanaka and Uda were having lunch. Tanaka felt hungry because he had exercised too much. So, they ordered 2 meals. Tanaka realized that Uda liked sweet food, while Tanaka chose to eat a hamburger. At this moment, Uda told Tanaka that if he kept supporting his chin while sleeping, he might develop jaw joint problems, and he advised Tanaka to exercise more. Suddenly, Uda noticed Tanaka's mouth was bleeding. It turned out the baguette had poked his mouth, and he was too lazy to chew. On their way home from school, Tanaka saw a comic poster. Tanaka said he didn't want to be the main character in his own life, because the main character always has to fight to awaken their power, or become a pirate to pursue their dream. But Tanaka feels that this is too exhausting. So, he only wants to be a side character. Even the author is too lazy to draw their face. At this moment, they have arrived at the park. The children ask Uda to help retrieve the ball. Tanaka feels Uda is very energetic and reliable. So, he decides to let Uda take care of him. The next morning, Uda sees Tanaka sitting with his chin resting on both hands. Uda realizes that today Tanaka will be twice as lazy. Suddenly, Kato asks him to help carry some documents to the teacher's office. But Tanaka only lightly supports the bottom. So, Uda helps them too. After that, they drink water together. Uda notices that Tanaka is so lazy he doesn't even wipe the water off his face. And Tanaka's laziness is on an entirely different level. By now, it's lunchtime, but Tanaka is too lazy to eat, even though he is very hungry. This surprises Uda. Then, they have music class. Unexpectedly, Tanaka is very good at playing the piano, because he learned it from a young age. However, the song gradually becomes gloomy. Everyone realizes the rhythm is slowing down. It turns out Tanaka was being lazy. When the teacher tried to touch him, unexpectedly, Tanaka screamed. This surprised everyone. So, they analyzed Tanaka's scream. Shimura thought Tanaka's reaction was an act of a teenager going through puberty. So, they assumed he was in love. At this moment, Uda went to look for Tanaka. It turned out he was still sitting in the classroom. Tanaka said he didn't want to go home. So, Uda dragged Tanaka to get ice cream. Accidentally, he dropped Tanaka's notebook. Uda discovered that Tanaka had a dentist appointment today. That's why he understood why Tanaka didn't eat and screamed when touched on the face. After that, Uda took Tanaka to the dentist. It caused Tanaka a lot of pain. So, Tanaka said he would brush his teeth more diligently, to prevent his teeth from getting cavities again. But, he needed to figure out how to brush properly for a lazy person. Uda realized, to be as lazy as Tanaka actually takes a lot of effort. The next morning, Uda saw Tanaka at the shrine praying. It turned out Tanaka was praying for a peaceful day, so he could lazily relax in comfort. He even gave all his money to the deity. But Uda thought Tanaka's life was always peaceful. Suddenly, a girl wanted to make Tanaka her master. This surprised them. She introduced herself as Mayano. It turned out Mayano was Tanaka's classmate. Because she wanted to become indifferent to everything like Tanaka, she asked to make Tanaka her master. But Tanaka refused. He felt his troublesome days were about to begin. However, Mayano persisted in making Tanaka her master. This made Tanaka want to take back the money he had offered to the spirits. Tanaka realized the more he refused, the harder Mayano would try. So, he decided to accept Mayano as his disciple for one day. This made her very happy. However, Tanaka told her to learn on her own, because he wouldn't teach Mayano anything. But, Mayano was still very excited. At this moment, they went to class. Mayano kept observing Tanaka, and she immediately tried to imitate his expressions. But, she couldn't manage it. This worried the teacher. So, he told Mayano to go to the infirmary. It's time for lunch break. She saw Tanaka give Uta a donut discount coupon for 3 people. So, they invited Mayano to join them. This made her very excited, although she still had to pretend to reluctantly agree. But, Uta noticed that she really loved eating donuts. At this moment, Uta called Tanaka to wake up for lunch. However, he didn't want to wake up. So, Uta carried him to the cafeteria, because he thought Tanaka would wake up when he smelled the food. But, Tanaka explained, sleep accounts for 80% of his 3 essential needs. So, he could go without eating if necessary. By now, they had arrived at the cafeteria. Tanaka felt the place was too big. So, he only needed a small room where he could eat, sleep and have a toilet. This made Uta think of a prison. So, he stopped Tanaka. Meanwhile, Mayano was still observing Tanaka. She noticed that Tanaka liked drinking green tea. So, she asked Uta to get her some green tea. But, Uta saw Mayano crying, because she couldn't drink her favorite strawberry milk. Uta realized it was because of Tanaka. So, he told Tanaka to drink the strawberry milk. Mayano saw Tanaka calmly drink any type of beverage. This made her disappointed, because she couldn't be like Tanaka. But, Mayano still didn't give up. She went to the library to read books, to learn how to be indifferent like Tanaka. At the end of the school day, Mayano went to meet Tanaka, and she gave Tanaka a stack of documents about how to be indifferent. But, Tanaka didn't understand any of it. This made Mayano disappointed. Tanaka said that indifference didn't suit her, because her nature was inherently hardworking. This shocked Mayano, because from the beginning, she could never be like Tanaka. It turns out Mayano likes someone, but she always felt insecure about her short stature. So, Mayano was determined to become more mature. Tanaka scolded her, because that person had already accepted her. So, whether she was perfect or not didn't matter. This helped Mayano regain her confidence. After that, they went to eat donuts together. Tanaka noticed that although Mayano was small, she ate a lot. The next morning, Tanaka and Uta saw Mayano acting very strange. They thought she had learned how to be indifferent from Tanaka. So, they assumed she had been dumped by her boyfriend. They kept following Mayano together. But, they couldn't figure her out. Mayano seemed like she was in her own world. She even gave up her favorite drink. Suddenly, they noticed Mayano entering a restricted area. So, they quickly stopped her. It turned out that because Mayano was so short, she didn't see the warning signs. Suddenly, Mayano realized something. She immediately thanked Tanaka and Uta. It turned out she had watched too much anime. So, she thought mascots would one day dominate humanity. This made Uta think the idea was ridiculous. But, when she realized she had become indifferent just like Tanaka, she felt disappointed, because she hadn't noticed it herself. The next morning, Tanaka was surprised, because he found a letter challenging him to a duel. At this moment, Tanaka and Uta were having lunch. But, Uta noticed Tanaka wasn't touching his food. So Uta thought he didn't like the dish. But, Tanaka said he didn't dislike any food. It turned out he was too lazy to pick out the fishbones, because he wouldn't eat dishes that were too troublesome. He even avoided eating fruits with seeds. This surprised Uta. So, Uta helped Tanaka remove the fishbones. Finally, Tanaka finished his meal. Suddenly, he passed out. This made Uta worried, because he thought Tanaka was allergic to something. Unexpectedly, he was just too full and felt sleepy. At that moment, Uta asked Tanaka about the challenge letter. But, Tanaka wasn't interested in it. Suddenly, a girl appeared and approached him. She introduced herself as Echizen. She wanted to challenge Tanaka to a duel. But, Tanaka was very sleepy. Echizen saw Uta with Tanaka. This surprised her. It turned out that they had been in the same troublesome gang before. And she was also Oda's childhood friend. He often called her Ekin. This made her embarrassed. She said that the reason she wanted to challenge Tanaka was to see what kind of person he was. But Tanaka still refused, because he knew that no matter how they competed, he would lose. This surprised Uda, because Tanaka was so indifferent that it diminished Echizen's willpower. Afterward, they played a game of Go with each other. Echizen kept winning. She felt that Tanaka thought a lot but lost very quickly. Suddenly, she realized Tanaka used the chess pieces to play word puzzles. This made her feel like she was losing to Tanaka. Suddenly, Echizen got hungry. So, Uda gave her his bread. This made her angry, because the bread, shaped like a bunny, was too cute for her to eat. Next, they played cards. Echizen noticed that Tanaka shuffled the cards very professionally. Unexpectedly, their cards were blown away by the wind. So, they had to pick up the cards again. At this point, Echizen didn't understand why her best friend admired Tanaka. She was even trying to mimic Tanaka's lazy attitude. It turned out that Echizen's best friend was Mayano. When Mayano arrived, Echizen immediately changed her attitude and picked her up. At that moment, Tanaka told Echizen not to worry, because Mayano wouldn't be able to become as indifferent as he was. But Mayano still wanted to learn Tanaka's indifference. This made Echizen angry. When Mayano found out that Echizen had challenged Tanaka, even though Tanaka lost, Mayano still admired him greatly. This made Echizen even more angry. The next day, Tanaka received another challenge letter from Echizen. Uda said that Echizen wouldn't give up until she achieves her goal. Meanwhile, Tanaka didn't understand why Echizen was so close to Mayano. It turned out that Echizen really liked cute things. At this point, Mayano was angry with Echizen and left. Tanaka happened to walk by. So, Echizen told Tanaka about their situation. It turned out that before, Mayano had baked cookies for Echizen. But, because Mayano's cookies were so cute, Echizen couldn't bring herself to eat them. And eventually, the cookies went bad. Afterward, Mayano found out that Echizen hadn't eaten them and got mad at her. Tanaka suggested that she should have just taken a picture of them. But, Echizen didn't have a phone. So, Tanaka told her to apologize to Mayano. While Mayano was still angry, Tanaka took Echizen to meet Mayano. But, she still didn't want to meet Echizen. So, Tanaka suggested she try writing a letter. Then, Echizen started writing a letter to Mayano. But, she still failed, because Mayano thought she was writing a challenge letter. By the afternoon, she continued blaming Tanaka. Tanaka revealed that Mayano had a crush on someone. But, Echizen didn't know this. She was also surprised that Tanaka and Uda had never argued. It turned out that Tanaka couldn't argue, because he believed that getting angry would consume too much energy. Even though he wasn't at fault, he would still apologize first. At this point, Mayano overheard Tanaka and Echizen's conversation. So, she stepped out and told Echizen that the person Mayano liked the most was her. This surprised Tanaka. So, they made up with each other, which made both of them very happy. The next morning, Mayano gave chocolate to Tanaka and Uda, while Echizen thought the chocolate was very delicious. Tanaka found it very hard to eat. The next morning, Uda continued to carry Tanaka to class. Suddenly, they bumped into Shiraishi. It turned out she was their class president. And she was also very popular with the boys in the school. They even formed a special protection team for her. Luckily, she said she was fine, which made them feel embarrassed and leave, because Shiraishi had touched them. At that moment, Tanaka and Uda picked up the papers she dropped. Since the papers were torn, they offered to help her. Tanaka thought she could defeat a whole pack of wild bears just by touching them. So, he felt much more useless than she was. Afterward, they went along with Shiraishi. At this point, everyone was paying attention to Shiraishi's beauty. Meanwhile, Tanaka covered his face, because he didn't want to attract attention from everyone. So, they went to the printing room. They saw Shiraishi using a laptop to rewrite the documents. It turned out that Shiraishi wanted everything to be easier and more convenient. Unexpectedly, Tanaka was also knowledgeable about computers. At this moment, Shiraishi began printing the documents. Tanaka felt that the freshly printed documents were warm. So, he thought they would make a very comfortable pillow. At this point, Uda felt hungry. So, she invited them to eat macarons. This made Uda very excited. He thought the flavor of the macaron was delicious, similar to a macaron shop in France he had visited before. This surprised Shiraishi, because at that shop, You had to place an order 3 months in advance. While it was Tanaka's first time eating a macaron, he thought it was a very stylish treat, which made Shiraishi unsure whether he was complimenting or criticizing it. After they finished eating, Tanaka began feeling sleepy, so she told Uta to take Tanaka back first. As Uta and Tanaka were leaving, Shiraishi felt relieved to be alone, and she returned to her relaxed style. It turned out that before, Shiraishi had always been isolated, so she was determined to change her style, and Shiraishi started wearing contact lenses, which made everyone admire her. But the contact lenses made Shiraishi's eyes hurt a lot, and she also didn't like wearing very short skirts. This made Shiraishi exhausted, but she didn't want anyone to know this secret of hers. If they did, her glamorous life would end. Suddenly, Uta and Tanaka came back, which shocked Shiraishi. It turned out they had forgotten their cap. But Uta didn't say anything and just left. Meanwhile, Shiraishi was still shocked. She thought her secret had been discovered. Shiraishi thought that Uta had told everyone, but everyone was still very friendly with her. Suddenly, Uta and Tanaka arrived, but Shiraishi still put on a bright smile. Tanaka asked, "Are you this cheerful when you're alone too?" This made Shiraishi worried, because she thought they had figured her out. So, she continued to watch them closely. Unexpectedly, Uta praised Shiraishi for making very delicious macarons. Shimura felt that Shiraishi would make a great wife. But Tanaka's standard for a wife is someone like Uta. At this point, it was chemistry class. Tanaka noticed that Uda's hair was too long. So, Uta tied her hair up. Shiraishi continued to think they were hinting at her. So, she kept watching them. At this moment, Tanaka asked about what happened in the printing room after he fell asleep. Thus, Uta told everyone. This made Shiraishi anxious. It turned out he thought Shiraishi had already gone home, and the girl in the printing room was someone else. This surprised Shiraishi. She realized she had worried too much. At this point, Shiraishi felt exhausted, because she had to act like the perfect Shiraishi too much. Suddenly, she realized that Uta didn't notice her relaxed style. So, she decided to test it out. Unexpectedly, Kato and Shimura didn't recognize her either, which made her very happy, because she thought she could finally be herself. But Tanaka still recognized Shiraishi, which shocked her. At that moment, Shiraishi told them her secret. She thought they would laugh at her, but Tanaka praised her for being amazing, because she could become the person she truly wanted to be, while Tanaka could never do that, because he was too lazy. Uta also encouraged her to trust in herself. So, they helped Shiraishi regain her confidence. At this moment, they promised to help keep Shiraishi's secret. Tanaka said, if she was too perfect without any weaknesses, he wouldn't be able to get close to her. This surprised Shiraishi. The next morning, Shiraishi tried wearing glasses, which amazed everyone, but they all liked this style of Shiraishi. Meanwhile, Shiraishi didn't understand why Tanaka could still recognize her, and she began to develop feelings for Tanaka. Uta also didn't understand why he recognized Shiraishi. Tanaka said, even though her appearance changed, her breast size hadn't changed. The next morning, Tanaka remembered he needed to go to the supermarket today. So, he asked Uta to go with him. It turned out that Tanaka's younger sister had asked him to buy something, but he didn't remember what he needed to buy. This surprised Uta, because Tanaka had a younger sister. Uta also had a younger sister who was in junior high. So, Tanaka thought Uda's younger sister was exactly like him. But Uta said his younger sister was completely different from him. When Uta realized that Tanaka and his younger sister were alike, it surprised him. He thought Tanaka's younger sister was lazy just like him, which meant their house was filled with trash. But Tanaka said that his personality and his sister's were completely different. At this point, they had arrived at the supermarket. Uta started helping Tanaka remember what he needed to buy. But Tanaka still couldn't remember. So, Uta chose the ingredients for Tanaka. This amazed everyone, because he was very good at picking discounted items. Even the girls wanted him to be their husband. Tanaka suddenly remembered he still had a reminder set up. But, because he was so lazy, he only wrote the word, pa. This left Uta helpless. Tanaka then came up with an idea. He would just choose all the items with pa in their name. Uta realized that all of these items had a strong smell. So, Uta thought that Tanaka's younger sister wouldn't like these things. Suddenly, he saw a store selling pancakes. He then realized that this was the item Tanaka's younger sister had asked him to buy. In the end, they managed to buy the pancakes. Tanaka thanked Uta and went home. The next morning, Uta smelled that Tanaka had a very strong odor. It turned out that his younger sister didn't ask him to buy pancakes, but instead asked Tanaka to buy some pipe cleaner gel. She had even cooked smelly dishes for Tanaka the night before. The next morning, Shiraishi still wore glasses to school. Everyone felt that she was still very beautiful. Shiraishi realized that thanks to Tanaka, she no longer felt as tired as before. It turned out that she had seen Tanaka sleeping earlier, which made her feel shy, because she wanted to try touching him. But Uta arrived and carried Tanaka to class. At this point, Shiraishi kept watching Tanaka. She felt that only Tanaka recognized her true self. So, she thought she had fallen in love. Later, she told Kitch and Mio, "I think I'm in love." This surprised them, but she didn't know what to do, because Shiraishi had never liked anyone before. Kitch said that others would go crazy if they knew Shiraishi was dating someone. So, she thought she would only cause more trouble for Tanaka. But Kitch and Mio continued to support her, which made Shiraishi very happy. At this point, Shiraishi decided she would try confessing her feelings to Tanaka. But she didn't know how to approach him. So, she decided to observe Uta, to learn how to get close to him. She saw Uta carrying Tanaka, and Shiraishi realized she needed to work on her fitness. But she needed to interact with Tanaka naturally. Then, Shiraishi thought of a way to pretend to bump into Tanaka. While waiting, she accidentally got caught by Uta. This surprised her, so she took the opportunity to ask Uta, "Does Tanaka have a girlfriend?" When she found out that Tanaka hadn't fallen for anyone yet, she felt relieved and ran off. She thought she would be the only girl to interact with Tanaka. But to her surprise, she ran into Tanaka and Mayano. This shocked her, because she saw them having so much fun together. She thought she wouldn't be able to talk to Tanaka like that, so she ran away. At this moment, Shiraishi felt disappointed. Suddenly, Mayano came to find her. Mayano realized Shiraishi wanted to meet Tanaka. So, she pulled Shiraishi over to him. This embarrassed Shiraishi. It turned out that Mayano thought Shiraishi wanted to accept Tanaka as her mentor, which made Tanaka confused about what was happening. When Shiraishi found out that Mayano wanted to learn how to be indifferent like Tanaka, she also decided to make Tanaka her mentor, because she wanted to be friends with Tanaka. But Tanaka said, "We are already friends." This made her very happy. Mayano then suggested they exchange phone numbers. This made Shiraishi very happy, because she was able to be friends with both Shiraishi and Mayano. Suddenly, Mayano sent her a message. It turned out that Mayano realized Shiraishi liked Tanaka. The next morning, it was raining heavily. Unexpectedly, Tanaka had gotten wet. It turned out that his little sister had told him to bring an umbrella, but Tanaka was too lazy to open the umbrella. So, he got wet. After that, Tanaka changed into his gym clothes. At this point, Tanaka said he didn't like umbrellas, because he had forgotten his umbrella many times before. But Uta said umbrellas are very useful. Tanaka thought it could be used as a cane. While Shiraishi was getting soaked in the rain, she imagined that Tanaka would hold the umbrella for her. Suddenly, she saw Tanaka standing outside the schoolyard. So, Uta ran out to bring Tanaka inside. It turned out that Tanaka thought he looked like an insect, because insects have the ability to protect themselves when it rains. But Uta said, if humans had that superpower, they wouldn't have created umbrellas. At this moment, Shiraishi realized that Tanaka didn't like using umbrellas. So, she advised Tanaka, if you don't use an umbrella, you'll catch a cold. Surprisingly, Tanaka agreed to use the umbrella. After that, Shiraishi held the umbrella for Tanaka on the way home, which made her feel embarrassed. It turned out that earlier, Uta had asked Shiraishi to take Tanaka home, which made her very happy. Suddenly, Tanaka asked if he could stand a little closer to Shiraishi, which made Shiraishi embarrassed. So, she accidentally declined. Even so, she was very happy to be with Tanaka. The next morning, Tanaka was still soaked. It turned out that he wanted to try avoiding the raindrops, but he still got wet. The next day, when Uta came to class, he saw that Tanaka had caught a cold. This made Shiraishi very worried. So, she wanted to take Tanaka to the nurse's office. But Tanaka was afraid of passing his cold to her. At this moment, Tanaka was very exhausted, because he had a sore throat. He couldn't speak, so Uda came up with an idea. They would communicate by writing. While Uda wasn't sure if his writing was correct, Tanaka wrote that he could speak normally. At this point, Tanaka had forgotten to bring his book. So, he asked Uda to help him find someone to borrow it from. But, Uda only knew Echizen, so Tanaka went to ask Echizen to borrow the book. However, Tanaka found Echizen's name too hard to write. Thus, he told her to change her last name to Uda or Tanaka. This made her think they were proposing to her. So, Echizen replied that they should wait another 100 years. Uda couldn't understand how borrowing a book turned into this. At this moment, Uda felt that the writing wasn't working. So, he told Tanaka to express himself through actions. But, Uda still didn't understand what Tanaka meant. Luckily, Tanaka was able to speak again. Uda noticed that Tanaka's skin looked brighter. It turned out that wearing a mask had warmed his skin. The next morning, Tanaka had recovered. Uda felt that Tanaka's jaw was more flexible. It turned out that the day before, he had made different facial expressions under the mask. Meanwhile, Echizen was embarrassed, because she thought Tanaka and Uda both liked her. But, she realized that Tanaka wasn't interested in her. Meanwhile, Uda is her childhood friend. So, she didn't know who to choose. At this point, Uda thought Echizen had come to challenge Tanaka. Thus, he suggested they have a finger wrestling match. This made Echizen imagine that Tanaka would hold her hand. So, she got embarrassed and ran away. At this moment, Echizen was still thinking about who to choose. She felt that Uda was kind and reliable, while Tanaka lacked enthusiasm and couldn't be relied on. But, she still didn't know who to choose. So, Echizen decided to cut her skirt to become more feminine, which made Mayano worried. While she still didn't know who to choose, she decided to choose Tanaka, because his last name sounded nicer. Suddenly, Tanaka appeared, which made Mayano very happy. She felt that if she were as small as Mayano, she would be a better match for him. But, Tanaka said that he liked tall and strong people, which made Echizen embarrassed. Suddenly, Echizen tripped and fell. Luckily, Uda managed to catch her, which made Echizen feel awkward. So, she ran away. By accident, she tripped on the stairs, and Uda ended up carrying her, which made Echizen even more embarrassed and caused her to fall. At this point, they all felt that Echizen was acting very strange. So, she explained herself to them. But, when she found out that Tanaka had been too lazy to write, she misunderstood, which made Echizen angry, and they decided to call her Ekin for convenience, which made her feel embarrassed. The next morning, Tanaka felt very cold. Suddenly, he discovered there was a gift in his bag. Uda realized it was chocolate for Valentine's Day. But, Tanaka didn't want to accept it, because he wasn't confident that he could reciprocate the person who gave him the chocolate. However, Uda was very jealous of Tanaka, because he had been given chocolate. Unexpectedly, Uda also had chocolate, but his chocolate was just friendship chocolate. Meanwhile, Shimura was disappointed, because he didn't receive any chocolate. But, Tanaka didn't know who had given him the chocolate, and he discovered a note that said, "I'm always watching you." This made Uda feel that it sounded like a threatening letter. So, he started thinking about who the person who gave Tanaka the chocolate could be. Meanwhile, Tanaka was also trying to find out who gave him the chocolate. Uda thought the person might be Mayano. So, Tanaka thought it made sense. Meanwhile, Mayano realized she had forgotten to make chocolate for Tanaka and Uda. At this point, they realized the person who gave the chocolate wasn't Mayano. So, Tanaka thought this was just a prank, because someone was trying to tease him. Thus, Uda suggested they should taste the chocolate first. Unexpectedly, the chocolate was really delicious. Tanaka could feel the affection of the person who gave him the chocolate. But, Tanaka was too lazy to flirt with a girl. If there was a girl who made him act, Tanaka would definitely have fallen in love with her for real. Meanwhile, Oda's chocolate tasted terrible, which made him disappointed. So, Tanaka let him try his chocolate. Uda found it very delicious. He felt like he had tasted this flavor before. And Uda realized that the person was Shiraishi. When Tanaka found out who gave him the chocolate, he felt relieved. Meanwhile, Shiraishi didn't realize today was Valentine's Day, because she had been single for so long. This made Tanaka and Uda continue to wonder who the chocolate giver was. At this moment, a recorder fell out of Tanaka's bag. They discovered it was a listening device. Suddenly, Tanaka's little sister appeared. This surprised Uda. It turned out her name was Rhino. Uda noticed she looked very much like Tanaka. It was surprising that the recorder belonged to Rhino, and she used it to record the teacher's lessons. At this point, Rhino asked Tanaka to invite Uda to their house. Tanaka realized that next time Uda could come to his house to carry him. After that, they went to Tanaka's house. Uda felt that Tanaka was very capable, because he kept the house very clean. But, when he wanted to add sugar to his coffee, Rhino said coffee should be drunk this way to taste good, which made Uda feel the coffee was very bitter. At this moment, Uda realized that their personalities were completely opposite, because Tanaka was very lazy, while Rhino was very hardworking. At this point, Rhino kept confusing Oda's name, because this was the first time Tanaka brought a friend home. So, she felt nervous. Uda realized that Rhino cared a lot about her older brother. Thus, he said that at school, he always helped Tanaka. Unexpectedly, Rhino told him not to do that anymore, because she wanted her brother to be more independent. At this point, Tanaka felt that the chocolate was very suitable to drink with coffee. When Rhino found out that Uda also ate chocolate, it made her uncomfortable. So, she subtly sent Uda away. It turned out that the chocolate was made by Rhino, and she didn't like Uda eating it, because she wanted to be the only one close to her older brother. At this point, Tanaka saw Uda off. He realized that the person who gave him the chocolate was Rhino. But, Tanaka thought the chocolate Rhino gave him was from the leftover portion she gave to her boyfriend, and she gave chocolate to Uda to thank him for always helping Tanaka. Meanwhile, Rhino had listened to the recording, but all she heard was Oda's voice, which made her angry. The next morning, Tanaka realized that Uda didn't come to class today. So, he asked Echizen to send the materials to Uda for him. But, she headbutted Tanaka, because Uda had always helped him. So, he should go by himself. When Echizen found out that he didn't know Oda's house, she felt helpless. So, she had to lead Tanaka there. It turned out that Tanaka had been to Oda's house several times, but he was always carried by Uda. So, he didn't remember the way. Suddenly, Echizen ran into a thug. Tanaka thought he was going to attack her, but it turned out he just wanted to pay Echizen, because she had lent him money last time. At this point, Tanaka realized that Echizen was very well liked by everyone. After that, they arrived at Oda's house. Uda was surprised to see Tanaka at his house. He was very touched, because someone as lazy as Tanaka had come to his house on his own. At this moment, Echizen was hiding outside the door. It turned out she didn't want to spoil Oda's happiness. Meanwhile, Tanaka thought Echizen was a very good person, which made her feel embarrassed. The next morning, Uda went to school, but he was in pain because of his foot. This was because he had helped an elderly woman up the stairs before, and he accidentally fell. So, he couldn't go to school the day before. When everyone found out it would take another week for him to recover, they were worried, because they didn't know who would take care of Tanaka. Suddenly, Tanaka decided to take care of Uda. But, Uda was too heavy. So, Tanaka couldn't carry him. Uda told Tanaka he could help him in his own way. So, Tanaka let Uda lean on his shoulder to walk. At lunchtime, Tanaka decided to go buy bread for Uda. But, when Tanaka got the food, he felt very tired. So, he ate some pastries to regain his energy. In the end, only the sandwich was left for Uda. Luckily, Echizen had bought more pastries for him. At this point, it was time for self-study. So, Tanaka lay down to sleep. Suddenly, he had a nightmare. It turned out that he dreamed of being invited to join the tennis team. But, Tanaka wanted to continue sleeping. Uda said that he needed to do his homework first. Surprisingly, Tanaka did his homework very quickly. Uda realized that Tanaka would put in a lot of effort to be lazy. But, his English answers were all wrong. It turned out that Tanaka was too lazy to think. So, he thought it would take him 100 years to learn English. But, Uda said that English was very important, because it is the international language of over 80 countries. Meanwhile, Tanaka wanted the entire world to speak the same language. Uda said that was impossible. At this point, they encountered a difficult question. But, Tanaka didn't know who to ask. He planned to call his younger sister. However, Uda told him he should solve it himself. At this point, they had a fire drill. So, Shiraishi asked Katu and Shimura to help get Uda outside. Suddenly, Shiraishi noticed Tanaka was missing. It turned out that he had gotten lost. Everyone realized that Tanaka was very prone to danger. In the evening, Tanaka realized that he couldn't help anyone. But Uda felt very happy, because he was being helped by Tanaka. So, Tanaka decided to create a Oda's Day to thank him. By this time, Oda's leg was feeling better. Thus, he had to continue carrying Tanaka to class. At this point, Uda saw a new strawberry ice cream, which made him very excited. But Tanaka thought the service here was too fast, and he couldn't relax. Suddenly, Tanaka saw the prize, which was a mini robot vacuum cleaner. So, he immediately went inside to eat. This made the staff worried, because he looked like someone who was about to die. When Tanaka realized that they were out of robot vacuums, it made him upset. This made the staff more concerned. She was afraid Tanaka would spill his drink. So, she decided to deliver it to him. But Tanaka couldn't drink yet, because his drink hadn't melted yet. This made the staff terrified, because Tanaka seemed really uncomfortable. At this point, Tanaka thought he couldn't do any more here. He felt that the waitress was really skilled, because she could pass an interview here, while she was feeling scared, because Tanaka and Uda were paying attention to her. Meanwhile, Tanaka felt that this place was very peaceful, because it wasn't as busy as he had thought. Even though he didn't get the mini robot vacuum cleaner, he decided he would come back next time. When Tanaka went outside, it made the waitress worried. But Tanaka praised her for being very hardworking, which surprised her. The next day, they went back to the fast food restaurant. But Uda had left his phone at school, so Tanaka had to stay there by himself. While waiting for Uda to return and get his phone, Tanaka felt sleepy. At this point, a girl entered the fast food restaurant. She saw Tanaka lying down, which surprised her. It turned out that Rhino was also there. Rhino introduced her as Saya, her classmate. However, Saya was very shy, so she spoke very softly. Rhino had to translate for her. At this point, Rhino felt lucky, because Uda wasn't here, so she thought it felt like she was on a date. But Saya was very nervous, because she didn't know what to say. Suddenly, Saya felt that Tanaka was very handsome, while her own brother looked like a gorilla. Saya then saw Tanaka looking somewhat bored. But Rhino realized her brother was actually happy. It turned out that today he had finally gotten the mini robot vacuum. Suddenly, Rhino realized she had forgotten to order drinks. Only Saya and Tanaka were left there, which made her feel embarrassed. So, Tanaka started talking to Saya. He thought Rhino didn't like him, because she often scolded him. But Saya said, Rhino really likes Tanaka. This gave him back his confidence, and he relaxed into his usual lazy self. Just then, Uda returned, which surprised him, because his little sister was here too. This made Rhino feel very uncomfortable. But when she found out Uda was Saya's older brother, she was very surprised. After that, they went home together. Uda felt that Saya was happier being friends with Rhino. Meanwhile, Rhino was surprised, because her best friend was the little sister of her rival. That evening, Rhino cooked dinner for Tanaka. But he wasn't hungry yet, so Rhino continued to scold Uda for taking her brother to eat before coming home. The next morning, Tanaka and Uda went swimming together. But Tanaka said he didn't know how to swim, so he brought a float to just soak in the water. Suddenly, Tanaka imagined that Uda would carry him while swimming. But Uda thought of a better way, and he started to teach Tanaka how to warm up. Unexpectedly, he got a cramp. Meanwhile, Tanaka was soaking in the water, which made him feel very relaxed. Suddenly, some children started to bother him. Thankfully, Uda scolded them, because they shouldn't steal a float from someone who couldn't swim. Accidentally, Tanaka's float started to deflate, which frightened the two children, because they were afraid of being scolded by Uda. Suddenly, Uda realized that Tanaka could float on the water without a float, because his laziness had reached a very high level. So, Uda and the two children started to imitate Tanaka, which made them very excited. At that moment, Uda also began to feel lazy like Tanaka. The next morning, the two children continued to look for Tanaka. It turned out that the kids at school had all learned Tanaka's swimming technique, which made them very excited. But Tanaka felt that he had done something he shouldn't have. At that moment, Mayano found Tanaka, because she wanted to grow 10 centimeters taller in 5 days. But Tanaka said that was impossible. It turned out that Echizen had invited her to watch the fireworks. But Echizen was very beautiful and tall. So, Mayano also wanted to be taller to go with Echizen. Tanaka said there was a simpler solution, which was to not go watch the fireworks at all. He suggested they would have a much better time watching TV at home. However, Uda advised Mayano that she should find another way to make the most of her height. Mayano realized she could wear a yukata. So, she invited Tanaka and Uda to go shopping with her. But, they were boys, and people would think she was playing both sides. So, she invited Shiraishi as well. At that point, they arrived at a kimono shop. Mayano realized that Shiraishi had never been to a fireworks show, because she always watched the fireworks on TV. Mayano said she was similar to Tanaka. Then, Tanaka picked some geta for Mayano to help her appear taller, which made her very happy. Meanwhile, Shiraishi was admiring a men's yukata, and she thought it would suit Tanaka perfectly. Mayano realized what Shiraishi meant. So, she invited Tanaka and Shiraishi to go watch the fireworks. But, Kitch and Mio had already invited Shiraishi earlier. Thus, she couldn't go with them. Afterward, Shiraishi tried on the kimono, which surprised Uda. Tanaka praised the outfit, saying it suited her perfectly, which made Shiraishi feel embarrassed. Meanwhile, Mayano couldn't fit into the yukata, because it was too big for her. So, Shiraishi offered to help Mayano sew a yukata, which made Mayano very happy. At that moment, Tanaka and Uda arrived at the fireworks festival. They saw Mayano in her cute yukata, which made them feel that Shiraishi was very skilled. Echizen saw Mayano, and she became very interested. However, she didn't understand why Uda and Tanaka were there. When Echizen saw Uda in his yukata, it reminded her of when they were little, and they used to watch fireworks together. Suddenly, Uda complimented Echizen, calling her cute, which made her feel embarrassed. She was about to compliment Uda in return, but he ran off, making Echizen angry. At that moment, the fireworks started to go off, and everyone was excited. However, Mayano had a hard time seeing them, because she was too short. The next morning, Shiraishi announced that the school would have a cultural festival soon, and their class would be making a haunted house, which made everyone excited. Meanwhile, Uda was really happy, because he would get to eat a lot of sweets. But, Tanaka was trying to hide his presence, because he was afraid of doing any troublesome tasks. So, he had been practicing stealth for 2 weeks. However, Shiraishi assigned Tanaka and Uda to be the ghosts for the haunted house, which revealed Tanaka's presence. Everyone was excited about preparing the haunted house. But, Tanaka just wanted to go home. So, he continued using his stealth skills. Unexpectedly, everyone thought he was practicing to pretend to be a ghost. Tanaka looked around and saw that everyone was working hard, and he realized that pretending to be a ghost was the most relaxed job. Tanaka thought it would be even better if he could just leave his body and spirit wander off. But, Tanaka still didn't look scary. So, Mayano suggested he pretend to be a ghost in the well. All he had to do was sit still. Everyone thought this idea suited Tanaka perfectly. However, Uda said Tanaka was already asleep. So, he drew fake eyes on Tanaka. Suddenly, Tanaka woke up, and he accidentally smeared ink on his eyes, which made him look even scarier. Meanwhile, Uda was trying to think of a way to scare others. But, he was too tall. At that moment, Shiraishi handed Tanaka the ghost costume. She told Tanaka to adjust his shirt, but accidentally saw his underwear, which made her feel embarrassed. After everyone worked hard preparing, they finally finished the haunted house. They started to test it out, and when they saw Tanaka, they thought he was taking a bath. Although he wasn't that scary, they still had Uda. Surprisingly, Uda said that he was actually scared of ghosts, which shocked everyone. Luckily, Mayano came up with an idea. The next morning, the school's cultural festival began, and everyone was terrified, because the haunted house was very eerie. However, Mayano looked very cute, so everyone came to take pictures with her. Meanwhile, Uda heard screams from inside, and thought Tanaka was trying really hard. But, it turned out he was just sleeping. It was now lunchtime, and Tanaka realized the place was too noisy. So, he wanted to find somewhere quiet. Suddenly, he found himself in Echizen's classroom, and saw she was dressed as a maid. But, Tanaka just silently walked away, which made Echizen angry. When he was about to go up to the rooftop, but the door was locked. Luckily, he spotted a box, which made Tanaka excited. Meanwhile, Uda was looking for Tanaka. When Tanaka heard Uda calling him, he sat up. Unexpectedly, Uda mistook him for a ghost, causing Uda to faint. At that moment, Tanaka realized he couldn't carry Uda. So, he decided to wait for someone to come and help. In the afternoon, Katu saw Tanaka and Uda sleeping here. Thus, they called him to wake up. Fortunately, their haunted house ended well. So, Uda and Tanaka helped everyone clean up, which made everyone very happy. The next morning, Uda warned Tanaka to stay away from the rooftop stairs, because there were ghosts there. At lunchtime, Tanaka and Uda were eating, when Uda realized that their class had changed seats today. But, Tanaka wasn't worried at all. It turned out that he had prepared beforehand. Tanaka was sure he wouldn't sit at the front desk. Unexpectedly, his desk was very close to the teacher's, which disappointed Tanaka. Meanwhile, Mayano was moved to the last desk. And because Uda was too tall, she couldn't see anything. Taking this opportunity, Tanaka suggested swapping seats with Mayano, which made her very happy. At that moment, Tanaka thought it was great sitting behind Uda. Meanwhile, Shiraishi was also happy, because she got to sit next to Tanaka. Shiraishi wanted to become closer to Tanaka, but she still couldn't find a way to start a conversation with him. So, Shiraishi began researching the best ways to start a conversation naturally. She constantly tried various ways to attract Tanaka's attention, but he never noticed, except for when she tried a more seductive approach. Tanaka only seemed to pay attention to that. However, Shiraishi didn't want to attract Tanaka that way. So, she changed her approach to show interest in him in a different way, but Uda always beat her to it. At this point, Shiraishi didn't know how to start a conversation with Tanaka. Suddenly, Mayano came along and encouraged Shiraishi to be more confident, which made her very happy. So, she decided to keep trying. 3 days later, Tanaka told Shiraishi that he preferred being alone, which shocked her. At that moment, Shiraishi thought all her efforts had been in vain. But, Tanaka was still lying in the classroom, which surprised Shiraishi. Although Tanaka didn't understand what she had been trying to do, he still encouraged her by saying, "If you don't succeed today, you still have tomorrow. No matter how long it takes, you'll eventually figure it out." This made Shiraishi laugh, because she was getting advice from someone as irresponsible as Tanaka. But, she realized she still had a chance, and she decided to gradually learn more about Tanaka. The next morning, Katu and Shimura scolded Tanaka, because they thought he had become an adult before they did. Tanaka was confused, not understanding what they meant. It turned out they thought Tanaka had a girlfriend, because the day before, they had seen him with a girl wearing glasses and braids. But, the person they saw was actually Shiraishi. However, Tanaka couldn't reveal Shiraishi's secret. So, he said she was just a friend. But, Katu didn't believe him, because boys always hide their embarrassment by saying the opposite. So, Shiraishi took note of this information. Uda also believed Tanaka had a girlfriend. He thought from now on, Tanaka would go home alone. But, Tanaka told him that he could carry both of them home. Mayano also thought Tanaka had a girlfriend. However, he was too lazy to explain. So, Mayano thought Shiraishi would be very sad. At this point, everyone thought Tanaka had a girlfriend, which made him uncomfortable. They had never seen Tanaka so cold before. When Shiraishi wanted to explain, Mayano stopped her, because she thought Shiraishi had been rejected. When Echizen found out Tanaka had a girlfriend, she was surprised. Suddenly, Uda wanted to ask Echizen something. She thought he was going to confess his feelings to her. But, he surprised her by asking her to let him carry her. This made her angry. At that moment, Tanaka felt much quieter. Suddenly, he was chased by a dog. He then thought about Uda and his friends, and he wasn't sure if he really wanted to be alone. When Tanaka returned home, he realized he couldn't live without Uda. This made Rhino uncomfortable. Tanaka then realized that he couldn't live alone. The next morning, Katu and Shiraishi apologized to Tanaka for misunderstanding him. It turned out Shimura had explained everything to Uda. The following day, Tanaka said that maybe he wouldn't look for a girlfriend, because everyone around him was making such a fuss, which annoyed him. But, Shiraishi decided she would still slowly approach him. That's the end of today's video. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to support Oni-chan in future videos. Thank you all for watching. Love you all.